Hi, welcome back to my channel for a brand new video today. Today is my quarter one reading statistics for 2025. So grab yourself a beverage. Mine is currently matcha. I am obsessed with matcha right now, so that's all I've been drinking. And let's just dive right into the reading statistics. This year, we have some comparable data with 2024, so I will also be including that in this video as well. On top of all of that, I am adding a brand new section called the reading challenges for 2025 as well. So we can really see how I'm doing and how I'm progressing with all my goals and all the reading challenges that I have for 2025. So without any rambling aside, let's head right into the reading data. So for the first quarter, I read a total of 24 books, coming out being around 8,066 pages. In addition to these 24 books, I did end up having to DNF one book, Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, which I was so surprised about, genuinely shooketh. You can hear more about that in my February monthly wrap-up. However, I also wanted to include the one book that I am still reading consistently because the book is technically not finished. It's being released chapter by chapter every week, and it is Villains Are Destined to Die Season 5. And you guys already know my love for Villains Are Destined to Die, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. Just wanted to call those two out since they are not counted towards the 24 books that I showed above. Now let's take a look at my monthly reads. On the right hand side, we have the number of books I read, and then on the right hand side, we have the number of pages. They look kind of identical, right? Like, if you take a look at it, it's kind of the same, and it's to be expected. Moving right along, I'm going to compare 2025 data versus 2024. So 2025 is on the left-hand side and 2024 is on the right-hand side. The first thing I'm going to be comparing is the number of books I read. Honestly, it looks like in 2024, I started off the year pretty high and then dramatically dropped. And by dramatically, I mean by 4 books or so between February and March. However, for 2025, the reading amounts is kind of on par with one another. And when you take the average of the books I read between 2025 and 2024, it's almost the same. In 2025, I read approximately 8 1/3 book per month. And in 2024, it was 9 per month, very close to one another. However, the interesting thing is that when we compare the pages between 2025 and 2024, I read 1,000 pages more in 2025 than I did in 2024. And this is important to note because I read approximately 2 books more in 2024 than I did in 2025. So the number of books don't always add up to the number of pages read. Moving right along, we have the book length distribution. It's kind of even all across the board with no books between 400 or 500. They're all 400 or below or 500 or higher, with most of them being between 200 and 300 pages. My average page per book is 334 pages. Of course, we always gonna talk about some quarterly highlights in terms of winning numbers. Now, the winning number for the longest read went to the winners, coming in at 688 pages. And the shortest read I had was Neurodiversity, The Birth of an Idea, coming in at 84 pages. And honestly, it's a thesis. It should be kind of that short. It took me longer to get through Neurodiversity, The Birth of an Idea than it did for the winners. So just putting it out there. So of course, it is no surprise that the longest audiobook went to the winners because it was the longest book. And since I listened to it on audio, it won the longest audiobook at 21 hours and 22 minutes. Let's talk about money. Money. Why did I do that? Money. So for quarter one, I saved approximately $205.93 with 10 books being from the library. I do want to note that I am adding the books that I get for free from my husband into this. So we include the one read I had that was technically free because I stole it from my husband's library. It comes out to being approximately $233.92. I can't talk about how much money I saved without talking about how much money I spent. So honestly, not too bad. I spent about $35.44 across 20 books. That is a steal in my book. However, I do want to call out that out of all of these books, I have only read 2 of the books that I have acquired recently. And on top of that, I wanted to thank Chris once again for gifting me 5 of these books. So they did add into the book acquisition for 2025, but I did note that they were gifted books. I also want to note the books that I got full price, but brand new at the dollar store. And I did pick up 4 different books from the Dollar Tree, and I just wanted to include them because you guys are probably wondering, how did I acquire 20 books for 30 something dollars? And I want to be upfront with how I'm getting all these books. So none of these books were full price. Most of them came from the secondhand thrift store / the library book sale. A good chunk of them were gifted, and the last few books were found at the Dollar Tree. Now let's move on to anything and everything about the reading breakdown. So for my reading format, this year I added combination into the mix since I have found nearing the end of 2025 that I began to both listen to the audiobook and also read it, especially for character-driven stories, because I feel like it adds a level of personality to the writing. So I included combination, and as you guys can see on the screen, 33% of my reads were combination reads, with 45% being digital, meaning whether it is from my ebook or if it is manhwa mangas, because I do read most of them on my phone, or maybe it's a video game read. Who knows? And only 4% of it were physical, with the remaining 16% being purely audio. To break it down a little bit further for y'all, you guys can really see on the screen which format I'm preferring. So technically combination takes the cake and takes the lead. However, because manhwa mangas, video games, and ebooks usually all fall under the digital category, it technically won in the overview, but not in the in-depth analysis count. So just so you guys know, just to be transparent with where my reads are going. As for my star rating, for the first quarter of 2025, I have a 3.63 average star rating. Not that bad, honestly, with most of my reads being a 4-star read. But the real kicker is, how did this compare to 2024? So let's hop into our time machine and go back to 2024, where you can see that I was a lot more generous with how I'm rating my books. A lot more books got 5-star rating, as you guys can see on the screen. It genuinely just seemed like I'm a little bit more critical about where I'm giving my star rating, and I'm landing more into the 4-star column than I am in the 5-star column now that I am a full year into reading more books. I'm truly understanding what makes a good book for me and where the line is drawn for between a 5-star and a 4-star. So I think that was a pretty interesting piece of information for me to see. I understand completely how the numbers have shifted completely. Like, I'm definitely a lot harsher with my reviews in 2025. Now, here is the moment everyone's waiting for, my favorite game on this booktube channel, and it is guess my reading genres for quarter 1. Am I even going to do a big reveal for first place? No. Because it comes at no one's surprise that it is romance. It is romance, it has always been romance, and when it is in romance, you guys need to check up on me to make sure I'm still kicking and breathing and alive, because romance will just do something for me. It makes me feel alive. So if I'm not reading romance, I might be dead on the inside. Sorry, that was a little bit dark. Let's take a look at the second place for most read genre in quarter 1, and it went to fantasy. Not surprised, I did read a lot of fantastical elements in the books. Why did I phrase it like that? I read a lot of fantasy books. Now, coming at last place is 6 books for crime and detective stories. And I'm in my detective mystery crime era, okay? You guys know that I have been reading and dabbling into this genre since last year because I want to find something that gets my brain thinking, gets it working, gives me the suspenseful vibes. I need that. And honestly, I've been enjoying the books that have these elements in a format that I enjoy. Of course, I have found some really terrible ones, but then I also found some really wonderful ones, such as Gone Girl and The Naturals. Both of those are probably highlights in terms of mystery, thriller, crime detective stories. Those were like the 3 overarching winners for quarter 1, but I will also show you guys all the genres. And this time around, per Kat's recommendation, I organized it from least read to most read, so it's easier on eye. Thank you so much, Kat, for giving me that advice, because it's a good advice. So you guys can see a good chunk of them were non-existent, but then we have another good chunk that appears, with a lot being in the ones category, and then a couple scattered between 2 and 7. Like, what? I don't even know what I'm trying to say there. I have no script. Now let's zoom into the ones that weren't 0. I added a slide with all of my genres just so you guys can see everything that is up for grabs. but realistically, we want to see the ones that I read for quarter one, right? And no surprise, we have romance, fantasy, crime detective taking the lead. And then trailing right after it is mystery, which mystery and crime and detective go hand in hand. So for my reading spreadsheet, a singular book can actually have 3 different genres tied to it. So if you add up all these numbers, it's probably over 24 because some of them were tagged under multiple different genres. So let me quickly pull one out from the top of my head. And by the top of my head, I have my spreadsheets on the side. So a good example of how I do this is like Anxious People. I had it under the genre crime and detective, literary, and mystery because crime and detective kind of go hand in hand, but Anxious People really have that crime and detective story interweaved into it. There's also elements of mystery. We're trying to solve a case, hence the crime and the detective. And then we have literary tag to it because I feel like it has a lot to say about humanity and our internal biases, like with all of Frederick Bachman's book that I have read so far. So I tagged it under literary. That's just a quick example of how it works. Some works could just be tagged under romance and contemporary because it's a romance that's in set place in contemporary current timeline. I'm not gonna make you guys guess on my romance tropes and book themes. I feel like you guys haven't seen it yet. So I'm going to show you guys all the romance tropes we have at play and all the different rankings. Honestly, it's kind of scattered throughout. Similarly to genres, I allow up to 2 tropes to be tied to a singular book. So only romance books have romance tropes. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. Let's zoom in a little bit closer to the data. I'm reading a lot of enemy rivals to lovers and workplace romance. I'm not surprised. That's probably one of my favorite tropes. Yep. We have some school academic romance, some opposite attracts, morally gray men. I love me morally gray men. We have forbidden love. Which one was forbidden love? Why did I tag? Okay, forbidden love, fated soulmates, ABO. That is probably, I'm trying to think. I think it's on the tip of my tongue. What is it? Filthy Rich Vampires. Filthy Rich Vampires is the only one I think I can remember distinctly of it being like that. I don't know, y'all. I'm not going to go through my spreadsheet right now, but that's just to give you guys an idea. So Filthy Rich Vampires was categorized under Forbidden Love, Fated Soulmates, ABO. Yeah, moving right along, we have book themes. Now, book themes, I'm pretty proud of myself. I actually touched on a lot of different themes across all the books that I read in quarter one, with most of them being under identity. I feel like identity in books are easy to pick up, are the easiest to kind of identify. Get it? Identity, identify. and, I don't know why. Don't, this is how I talk, okay? So for themes in my spreadsheet, I allow up to 3 themes per book. And I'm pretty sure for the woman, it was feminism, war, and politics. Now, a new piece of data for my reading statistics is the book pace. So for quarter one, it's actually a good equivalent distribution between fast and medium paced books with just a very small sliver of slow books. Now, the interesting thing about my moods for the quarter, what emotions did these books invoke out of me? We can see that it was mostly emotional, frustration, and then we have a couple of pop-up between mysterious, lightheartedness, and suspenseful. And then we have a couple of other emotions scattered all around, but it seems like for the most part, it was an emotional read, it was a frustrating read, a mysterious read, or a lighthearted read. Those are kind of conflicting with each other, so I think that it was kind of funny that they kind of are head to head with one another. A singular book can have up to 2 moods or emotions connected to the story. So usually emotional and frustration does kind of go hand in hand. Bored, not so much. If I feel like something's bored, it's probably going to be its own solo category. But, frustrated, adventurous, happy, suspenseful, like all these things can go with one another. So a book can have up to 2 of them tagged with one another. So for an example, I'm just going to do an example with 2. We have The Naturals. The Naturals had lightheartedness and hopeful tag to it, though I should have really tagged it as suspenseful and fun because it was just a really fun book and it was suspenseful. But at the time I tagged it as lightheartedness and hopeful. Is it correct? I don't know, maybe. I don't know. But at this point, I'm not going to go back into my reading data and change it. So moving right along, the target audience of the books I read are adult books. No surprise whatsoever. I do enjoy a good adult book. I enjoy an adult book because they have adult themes and they have adult smut. We have one sliver that is categorized under new adult, and I think this is because what I saw on Goodreads. And similarly with young adult, we have one book that was young adult and it was The Naturals for sure. That one is a young adult book. Now, a quick look at the publishing years that I read. It seems like most of my reads were before 2015, with only one book being before the 2000, and it is a 1934 book, and that book is Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. And the rest of the reads were all books that were published after 2015, with two exceptions being The Naturals and Gone Girl. I'm a very current generation reader. I don't read many classics, but that is going to change in the next coming months as I tackle my physical TBR, and we definitely have some older published books in my physical TBR. So hopefully we get to see a little bit more outliers at the end of the year with this. However, for quarter one, we only have one outlier for this. So in my 2024 reading statistics, I actually showcased to you guys some of the series that I am in the middle of. And these series are series that are already completed. So I have the ability to finish the series. And I wanted to update y'all and show you guys that I did in the first quarter finish two different series. The first one is the Beartown trilogy and the second is the Sacred Stones trilogy. Both of them are now officially completed and I can cross it off in my Excel sheet. And let's do a refresh because I finished two series. Of course, I have to add two additional series into the mix, with the new additions being Filthy Rich Vampires and the Natural series. I think I'm going to finish the Natural series in the next couple months. I already finished Killer Instinct and I believe we are going to try to read all in this month. So I'm just saying, I'm going to be finishing up another series, which means I am probably going to start another one. TBD. We don't know yet. Now we're at the last leg of the video. We're going to just quickly go over some of the reading goals and challenges for 2025, with the very first one up being my 25 in 2020. So far in the first quarter, I have only read 5 books, which is kind of like the pacing I need to be at. I think I need to read approximately 2.5 books every month, so I'm not too behind on this aspect. I'm feeling pretty hopeful to catch up to half of this list being read in the second quarter, but for now, I have read 5 books off of my 25 before 2025. On top of my 25 I want to read in 2025, I am doing 3 separate reading challenges / goal. Of course, I have my own personal reading goals, and this year I am participating in the Diversity Book Bingo, and in addition to this, I am doing the 2025 Buzzword Cover Challenge. Okay, I gotta be real honest, I don't even remember what I said. I went on a tangent about something and I completely forgot my train of thought. So wrapping it up here, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for sticking around with me, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!